Hello everyone, welcome to Influencers. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Max Levchin, CEO of Affirm, co-founder of PayPal, part of the PayPal Mafia, and a million other endeavors. Maybe just a polymath, we can call you that. We'll get into all the things you've done.
I like that.
Anyway, welcome, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, Max, how would you describe what you do to, say, an 8-year-old nephew? What do you do for a living? What's your work?
So I normally tell people I start and run companies. That's kind of a one-liner introduction, but when pressed, I revert back to, I just write code. That's kind of how I think of myself.
A coder?
A coder, a hacker, a builder, a company starter. I haven't thought of this one.
Okay.
Too carefully.
All right, maybe we can loop back to it. Why don't you tell me about Affirm, your latest company right now?
It's been latest company for over 7 years, so it's a bit of a long in the tooth startup, but still very much a startup. It's a bit of a throwback to my PayPal days. So PayPal was all about innovating above the credit card rails, where we took credit cards, which 20 years ago were really hard to use online, and built a user interface, which turned out to be much more than a user interface, to make it easy to use in a browser. And online commerce was never the same. 20 years later, it took me a long time to realize that the underlying infrastructure, what's below the rails, below the ground, isn't especially well made. It's not transparent, it's not especially consumer friendly, it has its own user interface problems, makes money on people's mistakes, kind of at a very fundamental level. And so I wanted to go back in there and see if it can be remade better. So 7 and a little bit years ago, we started a company with initially just a very narrow view of let's do a better job scoring credit. So the venerable credit score that everybody uses today is pretty opaque. It's not really clear. There's plenty of information online where this fraction is how much credit you have used and this fraction is how much money you make, but there's not a whole lot more to it that's been well understood. And as a result, for personal experience, I came to the US as a teenager, had to have my PayPal co-founder sign for my first car loan, my first cell phone. This is after PayPal IPO. So your credit history is not exactly well utilized as your credit is being assessed. And so Affirm initially was this idea, let's build a better score. Let's build something that's transparent, that's inclusive, that brings people in where they're being excluded. And then it expanded from there, where at this point we are embedded at the point of sale as a lender of record. So when someone wants to buy a thing, we will underwrite you, tell you, hey, here's how much credit we can offer you. We'll actually pay the merchant, so we'll take the risk on you and finance your purchase, and then we'll bill you over time. The cool thing about Affirm, sort of